Hi, my name is Aya. You're watching Aya Reads, and I'm here to talk about all my series I read this year. So basically, I'm going to talk about all the series I started this year, all the series I got caught up on this year, all the series I finished this year, and all the series I DNF'd this year. So I had a series goal that I did not achieve this year because I started the year off with 59 open series, and open series to me means that I still need to read books in that series. So series that I'm all caught up on and the author has not published a book yet, I don't count those as open series. But I ended the year with 48 open series. So I started with 59, I ended with 48, meaning I had 11 less than what I started with. But my goal was 30 open series, and I did not achieve that because I started 28 series this year, and some of them I also already completed and DNF. I'll start with the series I still need to finish, so series that are still open that I started in 2023, so I could read more books in that series. Starting with the Underworld series by Sophie Lark. I read the first 2 books in this series and I still need to read 6. The Nashville Neighborhood series by Nikki Sloan. I read 2 books in this series and I still need to read 3. The Hellions of Havisham. I read 1 book and I still need to read 2.5. There's a novella that I also really want to read. Full Metal Alchemist. I read 4 books in this manga series and I still need to read, let me see, 14. I still need to read 14 volumes. The Off-Campus series, I read the first 2 and I still need to read the last 2 plus The Legacy. I count it as 3 more books. The Game Maker series by Kresley Cole, I read the first one and I still need to read the last 2. The Knock 'Em Out series, I read the second one and I still need to read the first and the third. The Jacksonville Rays, I do have to say this is very close to me just DNFing. Because even though I did like That One Night and Pucking Around, it's not my favorite. I mainly like the smut, but the books are so big. So I'm not sure if I'll ever finish this series. So for now, it's still here because I am interested in some of the books. I know there's an MFM and there's going to be an FFM, those who I'm very interested in. But for example, there's a book that's just an MF. I don't know if I'm really excited about that. I guess we'll see. But I do know that Emily Rath knows how to write smut, and I do enjoy those. So I don't know, maybe for now it's here, but there is a chance I'm going to DNF it later in 2024. The Dreamland Billionaire series, I read the last one and I still need to read the first 2. The Kings of Sin series by Anna Huang, I read the second one and I still need to read the first and the third, and I'm definitely going to do that before the 4th one comes out. So this is a high priority series for me. Strawberry Hollow, this one I'm debating because I did really love A Festive Feud by Maren Moore, and there's only 1 book out, and it's also a Christmas romance. So this, I guess I'll decide at the end of the year. Either I'm going to read it around Christmas time, or I'm just going to DNF this series. I don't know if she's going to come up with more books in this series. We'll see. The Maple Hill series, I read the second one, and I still need to read the first one, and I really want to read that one before the 3rd one comes out. So once again, a high priority. The Souls Trilogy by Harley LaRue. I was actually planning on reading the 3rd book in 2023. I just didn't get around to it because I did read the first 2. And I'm planning on reading the 3rd one either at the end of January or at the beginning of February. So once again, a very high priority. The Holly Knight series by Leisha Ko. Once again, this was a novella series. I only need to read 2 more, and I already read the first 6. I did think that I would have time at the end of the year to finish it, but I didn't. But it's only 2 novellas, so once again, I anticipate I either will finish it in January or in February. And lastly, the ones where I started them but I still need to finish them is the King of Scars duology. So once again, I did anticipate that I was going to start and finish this series by the end of 2023. I just didn't get around to reading Rule of Wolves. But once again, very high priority. I do want to finish this series either the end of January or beginning of February. Now for the 4 that I started this year, but I also got caught up on them this year. The first one is Spy Family. I started it. I read all 9 volumes that were out, and I also read the 10th one that came out at the end of the year. Lore Olympus, I started this year and I also am caught up on it. So eagerly waiting for the next volume to come out. I read those physically, so I'm not reading them through Webtoon. So I'm just waiting until the hardbacks come out. The Empyrean series by Rebecca Yarrow. So I read Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, and I'm all caught up on this series. And finally, the Windy City series. I read all 3 books that are out so far. It's one of my favorite series, so I'm eagerly awaiting the fourth one to come out. Then I have 6 series that I started this year, but I also finished this year, and they're completed, so there are no books coming out, I don't think. The first one is the Kingmaker series by Sophie Lark. I started the series this year, and I also finished it this year. The Fallen trilogy by Nicola Davidson. This is a historical romance erotic novella series, so it's very easy for me to finish, and I did. Only 3 books and I finished them all. The Hathaway series, one of my favorite series of all time. I started it this year, also finished it this year. I gave every single one in the series 5 stars. The Assassin's Curse duology, I started and finished it in the same video. Actually, I read them back to back. The Chestnut Spring series by Elsie Silver, I actually started it this year and I also finished it this year. The final book also came out this year, so it was pretty easy. And then the Part of Your World duology, I guess. In my opinion, she could write more books, but so far it's only 2 books. I started and finished it this year. And now for 3 series that I started this year, but also DNF'd. First one is The Lifeship Traders with a heavy heart. I really tried with the series, and the 3rd book, I just couldn't. So I DNF'd that book and DNF'd the series. Raised by Wolves. I know that this is a trilogy, but the first one I gave 3 stars. It was fine. I'm glad I read it, but I don't need to continue on. And then The Seasons for Revenge. I hated that first book. And I know the 4th book is one that a lot of people really are recommending, but I do have to say, I don't trust those recommendations anymore because 'Tis the Season for Revenge was very, very, very highly recommended. I was assuming that I was gonna love it and I ended up not loving it. So that's why I DNF'd this series. So those were all the series I started this year, 28. And like I said, 15 of which I still need to finish. Now for all the series I got caught up on, I do have to say 4 of them I already talked about because they were also series that I started this year. And the other 2 are the Immortals After Dark series by Cressley Cole. So I started this series, I believe, at the end of 2021. And then 2022 was a weird reading year for me where I was in a bit of a slump. And this is one of the series that got me out of the slump. And I ended up binging the series at the end of 2022 and beginning of 2023. So I am highly anticipating the next book that is going to come out in the series. And the other one I'm all caught up on is The Ex-Hex. I really thought that the 3rd book was going to come out in 2023, but it didn't. But I'm all caught up. I'm waiting for the 3rd book. The Ex-Hex is one of my favorite books of all time. It's the first one. The 2nd book was not really my favorite, so it's a toss-up whether or not I'm going to love the 3rd book. Now for the series I finished this year. 6 of them I already talked about because they were books that I also started. But overall, I finished 17 series. Did I tell you that I got caught up on 6 series? I don't know. If I didn't, I told you now. So 17 series I finished this year. The first one that I did not start this year is the Montgomerys and the Armstrongs. This makes me sad because I wish this series was longer, but it's only 2 books. This was supposed to be 4 books, but she stopped writing. So we only have the 2 books and I finished the 2nd one. The Farseer trilogy, I started it last year and I finished it this year with only the last book. The Tombstone University series, this was another one of those smutty novella series. I read the first 2 at the end of 2022 and I finished it with the last one at the beginning of 2023. The Tempting Monster series by Catherine Moon. I read the 2nd book and then the 3rd book came out in 2023, so I read that one too. And I also read the novella that is a part of this series. Then the Stay a Spell series. I read the majority of this series in 2023, but I didn't start it in 2023. And of course, the last one did come out this year, so that's why it's a finished series. The Dirty First Date series by Harley LaRue. Once again, a series I started last year, I'm pretty sure, or the year before. It's just short, smutty novella, so I only needed to read one, and I did. The Brutal Birthright series by Sophie Lark. I was on a Sophie Lark binge. I really wanted to get to the Kingmaker series, so I finished the Brutal Birthright series this year. I believe with with 2 books. Yeah, I read 2 books this year and I read the last 2. The Holiday Hunk series. This was just like holiday romances. Looking back, I should have just DNF'd it. The only one I really, really loved was the first one, and the other ones were just mad to me. The Kiss Quotient series. Ooh, this series, I've been reading for a long time. Let me actually see when I started it. I started it in 2020. Oh, that's not that long. It's fine. But I read The Kiss Quotient in 2020, The Bride Test in 2021, and it has taken me 2 years to finally read the last one because I was not really that excited about it. The Chambermaid, this is only 2 novellas, and the first one is fine as a standalone, but I thought this was a good, smutty, good time, so I read the second one. I do prefer the first one. The Bridgerton series, I finally finished it. It was a good time. My favorite is and will always be The Viscount Who Loved Me though. Now for the series I DNF'd. I was looking through all my series and I was kind of stressing myself out and thinking, oh my God, I have so many series. What am I gonna do? And I decided that I went through that list and I DNF'd a bunch that I started years ago that I really have no interest in anymore. So those were 15. 3 of them I already talked about because I also started them this year, so I'm not going to mention those again. But the first one is Nick and Holly. This is another one of those holiday romances that is a series, and this is just of the same couple. I just didn't care, so I DNF'd it. The Order of the Unseen. The first one, I don't remember if I hated it or if it was just fine, but I really have no interest in continuing on. The Spanish Love Deception. This is sad because I really did love the first one, but then I DNF'd the second one, so therefore I DNF'd the series. The Archived. This is maybe one I will get back to, but for now it's a DNF. I did read The Archived. It was fine, but I believe the second book is either really expensive, and they don't even have the same edition that I have in the first book, and I don't know. I just prefer Victoria Schwab's adult works as opposed to her young adult books. So for now it's a DNF. Like I said, never say never. Maybe I'll get back to it, but for now it's a DNF. How to Hang a Witch by Adriana Mather. This one I really loved. The next one is going to be set in like a boat or something, and I just really have no interest in that. So I DNF'd it. The Chicagoland Vampire series is such a long running series, and I didn't really enjoy the first book, so I ended up, but a part of me was interested to see how it was going to evolve. Literally nobody on BookTube talks about it. Since I didn't really enjoy the first book, I figured let's just DNF it. Well Met. The first book I did enjoy, and then I heard so many bad things about the second book, and I was interested in the sister's book of the heroine in the first book, and at the end of the day, it was fine. I don't need to read it. There are plenty of other books that I do really want to read, so I DNF'd this series. A Discovery of Witches. So I really, really, really love A Discovery of Witches, the first book. But the second book I DNF'd, I hated it. I didn't like it at all. And I was always planning on continuing on because I do love the lore especially. But for now it's a DNF. Once again, same with The Archived. There is a chance I may return to it in the future, but for now it's a DNF. And we'll see. Maybe I'll just watch the TV show because one of like the hottest men ever plays in that series, Matthew Good. He is so attractive to me. So maybe I'll just watch the series and see if one day I'll return to the books. The Thelanian Dynasty series by Katie Roberts. So I read the first novella and it was really hot. There's a series about this MMF relationship. Once again, maybe one day I'll get back to it, but I thought the novella was perfect the way it was. I don't need a whole series about like this prince and his bodyguard. I don't really care about this, so I just DNF'd it. The Hate You Give. I did obviously really, really, really love The Hate You Give. I thought that was such a great book. This is also one of those where I might get back to it, but we'll see because I have been not reading a whole lot of young adult contemporaries anymore. It's just not my favorite genre. If I'm going to read a contemporary, 99.9% it's going to be an adult contemporary just because that is what I relate to now. I'm a 30-year-old woman. Not that there's anything wrong with 30-year-olds or 40-year-olds or 50-year-olds reading young adult. It's just if I'm going to read a young adult, it's going to be either a fantasy or a paranormal. But I do want to reread The Hate You Give in the future. And maybe once I do that, since it's only one book and it's about her father, who's a character I really enjoyed in The Hate You Give, maybe then I'll read that one. But for now, it's a DNF. The Wayward Children series. This is sad in a way because I did actually give 2 of the 4 I read 5 stars. I gave Every Heart a Doorway plus Beneath the Sugar Sky 5 stars. I really, really related to Beneath the Sugar Sky. But I have just reread Every Heart a Doorway so many times now because I wanted to continue on, and every time I just stop. So that just proves to me that it's apparently a series I don't want to continue in. They're pretty expensive too. And I mean, if I really wanted to finish this series, I would have because they're very short novellas. After reading the 4th book for the first time, I was like, I'm just going to DNF it because I don't really care anymore. And the Lux series by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is once again a series that maybe I might read it for a video, read like this entire series. I believe I read the first 2 and then I stopped and never really got back to it. And it's still on my shelves. It has always been a series that I was in the middle of. But this year I decided let's just remove it because once again, if it was going to be a favorite series, I would have finished it back then when I was reading these types of books. Yeah, I started the year off with 59 open series and I ended it with 48. I do have to say, I'm not doing too well on my goals for 2024 because I already started 4 series. Oopsie. But if you want to know all my goals and all my other goals and my series goals, definitely check out my 2024 goals video. I'm going to upload after this one, so definitely check that out. And I really hope you enjoyed this video. Definitely let me know by leaving a like if you did. And thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.